Welcome to the 5th chapter of the Book of Esther. Esther, in the first 4 chapters, became queen after Asti, the previous queen, refused to do what the king asked, and she was replaced by Esther through a process of people going out and looking for beautiful young ladies. And she came and she was pleasing to the king and became the queen. And then we were introduced to Haman, Macedonian, a Greek person apparently, that was disrespected by Mordecai, Esther's cousin, and therefore Haman copped an attitude against all the Jews and wanted to kill them all, and was able to get the approval of the king and the money to do this throughout the whole kingdom, which went from India all the way to Ethiopia. And then when Mordecai found out about this, he dressed up in sackcloth and went crying out by the place where the queen was living, and she sent out her eunuch and found out about this letter. And Mordecai mentioned the going in and pleading, and Esther mentioned how if she did that, she could die if the king didn't put out his golden rod. And that's where we left off in 4, and now it begins in 5. And it came to pass in the 3rd day after her preparing for this, Esther put on Esther Vasilikis, royal, Basel, I mentioned earlier, has to do with the king, royalty, and stood in the courtyard of the house of the king, in the inner courtyard, right opposite the royal house of the king. And the king sat down on the throno, which is a transliteration from the Greek, of his own kingdom, the throne of his own kingdom, in the Vasiliko, the royal house, right opposite the door of the house. So when you came in to the door, then his throne would be what you would face, and the king would be upon the throne. And as the king saw Esther, the Vasili's son, the queen, standing in the courtyard, as she found favor in his ophthalmis, eyes, ophthalmologist, is a derivative, and the Vasilevs stretching out to Esther, the Crescine rod, the golden rod, in his hiri, hand, that Esther approached and touched the tip of the rod. So she was accepted by the king, and she did not now have to worry about being put to death because of coming uninvited. And the Vasilev said, "What do you want, Esther? And what is your request?" "The axioma unto half of my Vasilius will be to you." Axioma is a worthy saying. Axiom comes from that. So what do you want? Half of what I have. And Esther said, "Well, today is a notable day for me." Now, notable because she knows what's going to happen to the Jews. Of course, the king and Haman don't know what she's thinking. "If then it seems good to the Vasili, let both the Vasilevs and Aman come to the banquet which I shall prepare today." And the king said, "Well, hasten, Aman, so that we should do the word of Esther." So they get ready to go to the banquet that Esther's preparing. And they came both to the banquet which Esther made, Epison. And at the banquet, the Vasilev said to Esther, "What is it to you, Vasilisa, Esther, Queen Esther, and it will be to you as much as is axies. There again, there's a similar word to the other one before, a worthy, a maxim, a worthy statement, axiom. And she said, the request of mine and my petition, if I found favor before the Vasileos king, let the Vasilevs and Aman come upon the morrow to the banquet which I shall prepare for them, and tomorrow I will do the same. Well, it sounded strange why she would postpone this way. Maybe to the Western world, we would just do it and get it done with, but yet she's preparing a banquet for them to come to do another banquet. Now, somebody from the Middle East or those areas may say, well, makes a lot of sense because of this and this, and this is what we do. And Aman went forth from the Vasileos, overjoyed and being glad. But in Haman seeing Mordecai, the Jew, in the courtyard, he was enraged exceedingly because he didn't bow down to him. He didn't get on his knees in front of him. And entering into his own place, his house, he called his Philus, a friend, Philadelphia. Philu is a friendly, a friend of a Philadelphia, a brotherly love, and Zosaran, his Gineka, his wife, and they have Zeresh in the King James. And he showed to them his riches and the doxin which the Vasilevs invested in him. So he shows all this wealth that he has to his wife and friends, and the doxin, we have the doxology, the glory to God in the highest, comes from that word. And how he made him to be preeminent. The king made Haman to be preeminent and to take the lead of the kingdom. And Haman said, well, the queen, the Vasilisa, has called not one with the king, not one to the banquet but me. And for the morrow she has invited me. And these things do not please me whenever I behold Mordecai the Jew in the courtyard. Hated him. And Zeresh, Zosara, his Gini, said to him and his friends, well, fell to yourself a xylon, 50 cubits, that's 75 feet. Well, a tree, a dendron is a tree. This is a timber. The two are interchangeable almost. I use tree because that's what it was. He was cutting down a tree. But timber is also used. When they cut down a tree, they say timber. And a timber is another word for a tree. And this becomes important, and we'll find out why, and I think in the next couple of chapters, what this is all about the tree. And at dawn speak to the Vasili, the king, and hang Mordecai upon the xilu. And you enter into the banquet with the king and be glad. And the saying pleased Haman, and the xylon was prepared. So before you go tomorrow, put up this timber, 75 feet, that's high, and hang Mordecai upon it before you go, and then go to the banquet. So it doesn't look good for Mordecai's plan, nor Esther's plan, because it all depends on going to the banquet. But here, if he hangs Mordecai first, then the plan is lost. But it doesn't work out that way, as we find out in chapter 6. And hope you'll join us in chapter 6 and continue with this interesting story and find out what happens with Mordecai, Haman, Esther, and King Artaxerxes. Hope you'll join us, and God bless.